Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Dante Fortson here with my response to the false 400-year Hebrew Israelite prophecy video that was put out yesterday by Vocab Malone, Faithful to God, and the rest of the whoever those other guys were. So last night they all got on live and they had a lot to say, and my name came up. I told everybody all you had to do was say my name 3 times and I'll show up. So last night they got on there and they started using my name a lot, and I'm going to talk about all of that today. They told a lot of lies, which I knew they would, and I tried to warn them before they started. I was in the chat room. If you guys want to go back and watch it, the link's in the description. But I was in the chat room. I tried to warn them. I'll get to that. So today's study slash response is brought to you by Undeniable, full color evidence of black Israelites in the Bible. It's UA Kryptonite. They will not address the actual visual or physical evidence. They just won't do it because they can't explain it. They have no rebuttal for anything that is based in tangible reality, even though they've stuck to this fake idea that we are not Israel. The second book this is brought to you by is The Black Hebrew Awakening, the final 400 years as slaves in America. We're going to talk about that today. But this breaks down the history and it breaks down my viewpoint on what it means in my own terms. Now, we're going to come back to this, but last night there was a lot of lies pushed out there about what I believe, and they mostly came out of the mouth of Vocab Malone and Faithful to God. So I'm going to address all that by the time we're done. For those that want to support, go to patreon.com/Dante Fortson. If you want to support on Cash App, you can reach me at hashtag BHITB. I also have PayPal. And for those of you who catch the premieres, Super Chat is available as well. All you have to do is click the $ in the chat, and it'll allow you to support that way directly on YouTube. For those of you who want a free book, Pre-Slavery Christianity, It Was Never the White Man's Religion. You can get the PDF copy. All you have to do is go to blackhistoryinthebible.com, enter your email address, check your email, click the confirmation link, and then click the download link to get the free PDF copy, and enjoy 5 easy steps. So go to blackhistoryinthebible.com and do that. All right, so if you've watched my Urban Apologetics Exposed series, I've went through the fruits of the Urban Apologetics community based on what I've seen. And so one of the things I mentioned is disruption. They like to come in and disrupt the black community. They don't go into these white communities and do it. They only do it to the black community, at least from what I've seen. They like to sow discord among black people. Again, they aren't going into the white churches and doing the stuff that they're doing now. Disinformation. They like to speak lies, which is one of the reasons this video is even happening, is because of all the lies told on last night's live. Discouragement. They like to discourage black people from even looking into whether or not we are Israelites. They don't want to look at the evidence. They don't want to address the actual evidence. What they want to do is pick fights and take shots at the camps and make boom boom videos and satire videos about black people. We're going to talk about that too. And they're disingenuous. They pretend like they care about salvation. They don't care about the salvation part. They care that you do not believe that you're an Israelite. They care that they get to mock you for being an Israelite. And for those of you who caught the conference video I put out about the Cyber City conference, for those of you who caught that video, go back to watch it. I don't even want to say it. I'm gonna get ahead of myself. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm gonna come back to the Cyber City conference video. Go watch that video though, and I'm gonna talk about everything that they do, the tactics that they do in that video. But I'm gonna bring some of it up later on in this presentation. But the UA community is all about deception. So last night, this is the title of the video, the false 400-year Hebrew Israelite prophecy. You can see it was done by Faithful to God right here. So he did his live stream. And it's interesting. One of the things I noticed is that they have taken off the ability for people to see the likes and dislikes. There's a reason for that. They are getting a ton of dislikes. Go look at Cherry Love's channel. They get a ton of dislikes because they are lying to people, and people are Tired of it. There's no reason to hide your likes and dislikes unless you're getting a ton of people disliking your content. So last night they get on this live stream, and of course, Vocab's cheerleader, faithful to God, he has his palms out and his skirt on, and he's Vocab is coming, Vocab is coming. You guys will hear him if you go watch the video. Vocab is coming, and so he's excited because Vocab is coming. And last on the video about the Cyber City conference, I mentioned about tap dancing for butter biscuits. Somebody else had mentioned that to me, and I mentioned it on there, and that's what we saw. Even though faithful to God says he's not black, this is what we're going to see really in the Urban Apologetics community over and over and over and over again, right? So mass is coming, mass is coming. He's excited about this. So he gets everybody hyped up, and he mentions that we even have a book. We're even going to talk about a book written on the subject. So I instantly kind of already knew where this was going to go as far as pertaining to me. So let's move along. Now I want you guys to see something. I said we're going to come back to the Cyber City conference. So the Cyber City Virtual Apologetics Conference. Now, I want you guys to know I intentionally posted my video to come out on the same day at the same exact time that Vocab had his video preview or whatever this is come out. Now, this, if you go to YouTube, type in Cyber City Virtual Apologetics Conference. Vocab has 493 views. I have 1.1K views. I'm doing them a favor. My video has more views than theirs. Why is that important? Because I suspect that Vocab's follower count is fake. Now, I've suspected it based on the response that I see to his videos, because he only seems to get a huge response when he talks about Black Hebrew Israelites, which tells me that based on the comments in the comment section, a lot of those people viewing his video are Israelites and not all urban apologists. So me, I look at my count and I have about 4.7 thousand subscribers right now as I'm making this video. And Vocab has over 18,000 subscribers. So how is it that somebody with triple the amount of subscribers to me gets half, actually less than half of the views that I get on a video with the same exact title? Even though he's coming up, as you can see, he's coming up above my video in the search results, yet he's getting half the amount of views with triple the amount of subscribers. That's just something I noticed. In my opinion, I believe that there's something fishy about his subscriber count, and that he's trying to blow himself up and make himself look bigger than he is. Because see, if you follow Vocab's failures of careers over the course of his short history, he failed at rap. And then if you go look at his YouTube page, you can see that he disappears for a while off of YouTube after retiring, or whatever he calls it. He retired from rap. I think rap retired him because he's garbage. Just go listen to his songs and whatever spoken word. I don't know what that stuff is. But he disappears and he comes back. And one of the earliest videos he puts up is about a mass shooting, almost as if he's trying to capitalize off of being associated with a mass shooter. Now I'm kind of getting off into the left field now, but I'm gonna run with this. I find it interesting that if you guys go back and read some of the stuff, some of the articles where Vocab is associated with this mass shooter, Vocab says he wasn't surprised. He had witnessed to this guy supposedly for 6 months, and yet he wasn't surprised that this guy did a mass shooting, which tells me one of a couple things. Either Vocab thought this guy was capable of shooting up a bunch of people, or this guy told Vocab he was going to shoot up a bunch of people, and Vocab knew it was going to happen. Either way it goes, Vocab didn't alert the authorities. So ask yourself why somebody wouldn't be surprised if somebody committed a mass killing. Now, I don't know about you. Now, supposedly Vocab worked with this guy, right? This according to the story that I've read, he worked with this guy and talked to this guy for 6 months. I don't know anybody I've associated with in my life for a 6-month period that I thought, you know what? This person is absolutely capable of going and performing a mass shooting and killing a bunch of innocent people. I have never once thought that around the people that I tend to be around. And yet vocab says he wasn't surprised, meaning he had an idea that this could happen and he still didn't warn people. But anyway, I'm gonna come back to that in a whole later video. I'm gonna talk about vocab's whole involvement with the mass shooter and his involvement with the so-called Arab Baptist church. If you guys go back and watch some of the Urban Apologist exposed videos, you'll see where I showed that vocab plays a Muslim arguing against Christ for a so-called training video, probably a recruitment video for his Arab church. But anyway, so let's talk about some signs of weakness in the UA community that we got to see last night that many people probably didn't even pick up on. So one sign of weakness is you only get brave in groups. So go back and watch the Cyber City video. I showed you that vocab came on my YouTube channel and left a comment. He didn't say anything to me. Before that, he went into Sister Cherry's chat as a moderator. I was in the chat. He didn't say anything to me. Vocab hasn't said a word to me. I've been on vocab's page, and yet last night he gets on live with 3 other people, and then suddenly he gets brave. He's been aware of my website for a while. I'm gonna come back to that real quick, but he's had plenty of time to address the evidence. I'm talking about the actual evidence, not some nonsense that you want to pull up that we're going to talk about too, but the actual evidence. He's had plenty of time and he won't do it. Cherry Love won't do it. Faithful to God won't do it. They won't address the actual physical, archaeological, scientific evidence. But the biggest sign of weakness that I saw last night during your live stream was throwing your allies under the bus. And what entertained me the most about this whole situation is that they didn't even catch it. They didn't even catch that you threw him under the bus. You threw Faithful to God under the bus. Twice. Actually, technically 3 times. One time you didn't even know you did it. So we're going to talk about that. Why did vocab throw Faithful to God under the bus? So let's talk about what a shield is. A shield is a broad piece of metal or another suitable material held by straps or a handle attached on one side, used as protection against blows or missiles. As a verb, to protect someone or something from a danger, risk, an unpleasant experience. That's what the shield squad is for, to protect vocab. And then once your shield is done, you toss that shield away and you get another. He was using Faithful to God as a shield last night because, see, vocab did not warn them for a reason. So I want y'all to understand something. Vocab has known who I am for at least 10 months. I've proven that to y'all in the Urban Apologetics Exposed series. Go watch the whole series. Vocab has known exactly who I am. But here's what vocab might have missed, is that in the first video that I did on Urban Apologetics Exposed, I pointed out that Faithful to God was on Cherry Love's channel, and he was so sure of himself, and he said, I talk to vocab almost every single day, and your name has never came up, and we talk about the top Israelites, and your name has never came up, and we talk about the camps, and your name has never came up. I can almost assure you vocab has no idea who you are because you're a nobody. This is what Faithful to God said. And yet we see vocab put my book in his video almost about 10 months ago. Vocab recognized my site immediately. So if you go to last night's live stream, when they said they were about to pull up the website reference, vocab immediately says, is this Dante Fortson's website? Now, Faithful to God, let's go back to that first one. Urban Apologetics Exposed, number 1, video 1. Faithful to God said nobody visits blackhistoryinthebible.com. I doubt vocab knows about blackhistoryinthebible.com. And yet, as soon as he saw it, he knew exactly which website it was and whose website it was. Again, you put your foot in your mouth, Faithful to God, but vocab didn't warn you of any of this. So let me ask you something. If you and vocab are so close and y'all talk every other day, why is it vocab didn't bring me up? He's well aware of who I am. He's well aware of my website. Now, let me show you where he threw you under the bus again. So when the insults started, vocab made sure to point out, he called you by name. He said, that's not me doing the insults. That's Faithful to God. He threw you under the bus by name. That's not me doing it. That's faithful to God. Now, when you said that I'm a nobody, what did he say? He said, I'm not going to call him a nobody. He threw you under the bus again and separated himself from you again. He used you as a shield. That's the purpose of the shield squad, to shield him so he can sacrifice you whenever he feels like it. Go to my Cyber City video. I said that's exactly what he would do. He would use everybody else. I specifically said he would use the black urban apologist, but clearly he will use the Spanish urban apologist as well, just like a shield, and toss you away when he's done. I said this would happen, and it happened last night. He put you under the bus 3 times. He showed that you were lying about him knowing exactly who I am. He showed that you were lying about him not being aware of blackhistoryinthebible.com. He separated himself from you when you started with the insults and called you by name to make sure that everybody know it was you and not him. And then he backed away from you when you started asking people, have you heard of Dante? Have you heard of Dante? You see, he didn't raise his hand. He didn't chime up. He heard of me. Anybody can go watch your video now and see his reaction. He heard of me. And I want everybody to watch the live chat if they still have the live stream in the chat showing on the site. Watch the chat. I was in the chat room. I had been in the chat room. Watch Vocab's eyes go towards that chat. Vocab had seen me in the chat room because almost immediately after he says, is this Dante Fortson's website? And he starts talking. He goes, wait, is Dante Fortson in the chat? He's seen me in the chat room already. Just like he saw me on his page when he did the live promoting that dude's book. He saw me in the chat room then. And then he told somebody else to post the link that I kept referring to. So he was trying to get away from me, but at the same time respond to me because he didn't have nobody there yet to put a battery in his back. But last night he had his 3 dudes around him. He had shields around him. He had shields that he could throw under the bus if something happened. So Vocab had the battery in his back. Now, I'm not necessarily going into order of events right now, but let me show you something. So last night they bring up this video. Now, Vocab is known about my website for going on 10 months, possibly a little over 10 months. I'm not sure the exact day. This is the best they could do. This is the best that they could do, is find a video that I shared of Pastor Omar at School of the Hebrews to say they caught my hand in the cookie jar teaching the false failed 400-year prophecy, and to say that I no longer had credibility because I shared Pastor Omar's video. Now, in the live last night, they made a big deal about this whole part up here. 400 years, time is almost up. Pastor Omar's School of the Hebrews conference, right? Now, faithful to God, who clearly has no research ability at all, and Vocab Malone, who I'm starting to think is just a character and has no research ability at all. He does like many of the camps. He learns a little bit and doesn't learn anything else, and he sticks to that over and over and over again, right? So now they're making a big deal about this. Now listen to Faithful to God that keeps pointing out time is almost up. Why would you write that? Why would you write that? So I took a screenshot. I have not changed anything on the page. I want you guys to go watch their video to confirm this, that the same screen that they showed is the same one I'm showing now. July 27, 2018. That's the date. They pointed out the date because they want everybody to see it. So now I want everybody to see it. Look right here. This is the title of Pastor Omar's video. I copied the title. I took out the quotation marks right here because I'll explain that to you in a second. I took out the quotation marks and I spelled out School of the Hebrews. They wrote SOH. I spelled out School of the Hebrews Conference. This is SOH Conference. So now understand why I did this, because on my website, when I post something, a notification goes out to almost 30,000 subscribers. This is the title of the email they get. I titled it the same thing as the video. Now, usually I copy and paste the video description, which I did not do for this because the video description wasn't actually a description of the contents of the video. Because when the email goes out, the first couple lines of text on my post show up in the email in the preview part so people know what it is they're about to open. So right here was a 2-sentence summary that Faithful to God said that, well, why are you saying this if you don't agree with everything Pastor Omar says, which I'm gonna come back to. It says this video is from the School of the Hebrews conference. It is. Pastor Omar covers the 400 years of captivity, which are coming to an end in 2019, which that's exactly what the video's about. 400 years, time is almost up. 400 years of captivity coming to the end in 2019. That's the whole premise of the video. I said, check it out, comment and share. That's it. So now, according to Faithful to God, I'm a false prophet because I shared his video, or I'm, aiding and abetting or something like that, a false prophet. So anyway, after Faithful to God and Vocab come up with the weakest argument ever, after having 10 months of access to my website and access to all of my YouTube videos, this is the best they come up with. The weakest possible argument ever. Because they believe that by attacking other people, they are actually attacking me. You see Cherry Love do it when she goes and attacks the Sir Harry Johnston's beliefs in evolution and racism. She thinks that automatically disqualifies everything else because she attacked that one thing. And it had nothing to do with me. Same thing here. They're attacking Pastor Omar, so they think because I shared Pastor Omar's video that it means that I agree with Pastor Omar. And I said in the chat, I don't agree with 100% of everything Pastor Omar teaches. And I don't agree with everything anybody teaches. But I want to show you something before I get to that. Let me show you the hypocrisy of Vocab. So, Vocab and Faithful. So, they want to know if I don't agree with Pastor Omar, why I would share something of his. So, let me ask this. Cherry Love said that she would commit a violent act to Sister E if she was the family members of the people who got shot in Jersey City. So, do you agree with Cherry Love that you would commit a violent act on Sister E? I want both of y'all to answer that. And if you don't agree, why are y'all still associating with Cherry Love? Why are you, Vocab, in her chat as a moderator the day she said it? I think it was the day or the day after she said it. You haven't come out publicly and said you don't agree that we shouldn't commit violence against black women. But Vocab ain't going to say that because he agrees with Cherry Love. He doesn't care if violence happens to black people. He probably thought the mass shooter that he knew and probably had information on for 6 months, he probably thought that dude was going to shoot up some other black people, which is why he didn't say anything. But again, that's just my opinion. So let's talk about what I said. Now, I warned them in the chat. Quote me word for word. Don't get it wrong. Even in the chat, you can see me. I said, come on, you guys can do this. Now, Vocab hasn't read my book, which I said before. I knew he hadn't read the book, and he showed again last night that he had not read the book. Because I told him, quote it directly from my book, because I never said that August was going to be the end of the prophecy. I never said that. These are my words. Now, I want you guys to go to chapter 12 of my book. I believe it's page 254-ish, around there. So anybody that has my book, this is already printed. So Vocab can't say, well, I changed the text or whatever. This is in chapter 12. Find the headline 619 AD. And this is what it reads. Most people, including the United States government, agree that slavery for descendants of the transatlantic slave trade started in 1609. That's a fact. Most people agree that slavery started in 1619. I'm sorry, not 1609, 1619. This is also the date when we believe that the 400-year curse began. That's true. Most Israelites believe that the 400-year curse began in 1619. If we apply the math, it would mean that sometime in 2019 will be the end of the 400-year curse. Now, again, true. If you apply the math and it applies to a 400-year curse, 400 years from 1619 is 2019. Now, notice the next part, the bullet points. I'm not teaching that the world will end in 2019. They didn't designate that. I'm not teaching that Christ will return in 2019. They didn't designate that. I said, I'm only stating that the curse will be over in 2019. Then I go on to say, we don't know any exact dates because the Bible does not give them to us. This was by design so that the elect would realize what's going on without those that are against us realizing what's about to happen. So again, I never said any of this stuff they accuse me of as far as what they are claiming happening in 2019 and what most Israelites believe. I was very clear that I thought the curse come to an end. Now, let me go ahead and educate them since they didn't actually bother to read my book and they don't know what I actually had to say about the 400-year prophecy since they stopped at the title. They read The Black Hebrew Awakening and said, oh, wait, he must be a black Hebrew Israelite, so he must be associated with the camps. And then it said the final 400 years of slaves in America. So they thought, oh, well, wait, he's mentioning 400 years of slavery, so he must think that August 2019, Israel's going to be out of here. They didn't read the book, because had they read the book right now, they wouldn't be about to have their credibility destroyed. So I want you guys to know, Vocab didn't read that book. Faithful to God didn't read that book. What they did was they got on live last night lying over and over and over again based off an assumption. And I also want to point out that one of the other clowns on there, I don't know who he was, and I didn't even care at the time, but he mentioned on there something about the Indians and the Puerto Ricans or something. He said, I don't even believe in the 12 tribes chart. Just understand that this is how unresearched these people are. They brought up, I know he was talking about the 12 tribes chart because he assumed that I'm part of the camps and I associate myself with camp doctrine. He has no clue. I don't believe in the 12 tribes chart. These people have done no research on anything. And yet these are the people that some of you guys trust with your spiritual well-being. So let's talk about why I said I believe the curse end. Number one, I believe part of the curse ending is the blindness of Israel being moved away. Israel starts to see who we are. We start to awaken in a bigger chunk, I guess you would say, because I took a poll on my site. The majority of people said they started to awaken around 2015-ish. It was some people that awoke before that, of course, but the majority started to awake around 2014, 2015-ish, late 2014, 2015-ish. And I believe there's a reason for that, because the 400-year curse was coming to an end. Now, part of that curse was God not listening to Israel, God ignoring Israel's pleas for help. And we'll start in Jeremiah 2, verse 26 through 30. As the thief is ashamed when he is found, so is the house of Israel ashamed. They, their kings, their princes, and their priests, and their prophets, saying to a stock, Thou art my father, and to a stone, Thou hast brought me forth. For they have turned their back unto me and not their face. But in the time of their trouble, they will say, Arise and save us. Kumbaya. Arise, Father God. Go watch my videos on addressing the evidence. Part 4, I think, is where I get into Kumbaya. Jeremiah 2:28. But where are thy gods that thou hast made thee? Let them arise, if they can save thee in the time of trouble. For according to the number of thy cities are thy gods, O Judah. Wherefore, or why will you plead with me, or why will you beg me? You have transgressed against me, saith the Lord. In vain I have smitten your children. They receive no correction. Your own sword hath devoured your prophets like a destroying lion. So now, part of this curse was God not listening. Right here, in their time of trouble, they will say, Arise and save us. But where are your gods you have made thee? Let them arise. He's not listening. But let's continue. In Jeremiah 11:11. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them. He's not going to listen. Then shall the cities of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem go and cry unto the gods unto whom they offer incense, but they shall not save them at all in the time of trouble. This punishment was permanent. The 400 years, not permanent. This 400-year punishment was 400 years. It was going to stand. Now, I'm going to talk about dual fulfillment in a minute. If any of you listen to Teo Ministries, they talk about dual fulfillment, which is why we look at the verses of what happened to Babylon to understand what's going to happen again, because in end times prophecy, there's a future. The daughter of Babylon is referred to as being those that took the daughter of Israel, or the descendants of Israel. So we're going to talk about all of that at a later time. But just understand, dual fulfillment, you can look at the prophecies and say, okay, this makes sense. This is what happened last time. This is what's going to happen this time. So here we go. For according to the number of thy cities were thy gods, O Judah, and according to the number of the streets of Jerusalem have ye set up altars to that shameful thing, even altars to burn incense unto Baal, or Baal, however you want to pronounce it. Therefore pray not thou for this people, neither lift up a cry or prayer for them, for I will not hear them in the time that they cry unto me for their trouble. He's not listening. He wasn't going to listen for that whole 400-year period, because that was the punishment when Israel cried out to other God or worshiped other gods. And then they went into slavery and they cried out to God. He would save them over and over and over again. You're going to see Hosea, the book of Hosea right here. We'll start at verse 13. Chapter 5, verse 13. When Ephraim saw his sickness and Judah saw his wound, then went Ephraim to the Assyrian and sent to King Jareb Yet he could not heal you. Yet could he not heal you, nor cure you of your wound. For I will be unto Ephraim as a lion, and as a young lion to the house of Judah. Even I will tear and go away. I will take away, and none shall rescue him. I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their offense and seek my face. In their affliction, they will seek me early. So again, he says he's going to go away. He's going to do what he does, and he's going to leave until we acknowledge our offense. He says in their affliction, they shall seek me early. Again, kumbaya. Why were African slaves calling out to Yah? Why were they singing, "Arise, Father God"? Why were they singing a song to save them from the slavery? Save them from slavery that they were in. Because they were Israelites. But the Urban Apologetics community don't want to hear that. So again, let me show you another example of God not listening until the punishment is over, until the curse is over. And again, even if you don't agree, it doesn't matter. Because you have to understand dual fulfillment to get what's going on here in a lot of these verses. It's not just about the events at the time. So in Judges chapter 10, right here. Moreover, the children of Ammon passed over Jordan to fight also against Judah and against Benjamin and against the house of Ephraim, so that Israel was sore distressed. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, saying, We have sinned against thee, both because we have forsaken our God and served Balaam. All right, so now they admit that they're worshiping other gods, but look what's about to happen. They're about to be made slaves because of it. And the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Did not I deliver you from the Egyptians, and from the Amorites, from the children of Ammon, and from the Philistines, the Zidonians also, and the Amalekites, and the Maonites did oppress you, and you cried to me, and I delivered you out of their hand. Yet ye have forsaken me and served other gods. Wherefore I will deliver you no more. Go and cry unto the gods which you have chosen. Let them deliver you in your time of tribulation. God is done. He's not listening. But the Urban Apologetics community doesn't get that about the transatlantic slave trade. There's a 400-year period where God was not listening. And now that 400-year period is over, and you're starting to see an awakening of people who were enslaved for 400 years. Everybody acknowledges we were enslaved. There was a 400-year period since the transatlantic slave trade. And don't get it mistaken, the 94 crime bill by the Democrats was just slavery under a different name. When they mass incarcerated black people and put them in chains, slavery is still going. They have not repealed the 94 crime bill. So this is what people who don't look like us don't get. They think slavery ended because somebody wrote something on a piece of paper. No, slavery did not end. Slavery is still alive and active right now. They even have slave trading programs just like they used to, where they call them prisoner share programs, where they send a prisoner from one state to another. I know because one of my good friends who's in prison is now sent to another state on that program. It's basically the old slave lending program. But they don't want to hear that because they want to believe that America did the right thing after doing the wrong thing. No, they are still enslaving black people. They're just doing it right in front of your face under the guise of criminal justice. So God wasn't listening. He said, I'm not going to deliver you anymore. So that 400-year period, you're starting to see the awakening, but you guys don't understand it. And even Vocab was surprised when he gave the stats on how many people he thinks are identifying or sympathizing with Israelites. And he says it's a problem, but it ain't a problem. It's only a problem for them. And I'm going to show you why, since we're on the subject, since I have to educate these urban apologists on what I actually believe and not what they think I believe. So now, again, this is just my point of view on it. So the Most High, when our ancestors went and worshiped these other gods, he says, all right, you're going back into slavery 400 years, just like I told Abraham. I'm not going to listen. But at the end of the 400-year period, when the curse is over, in my opinion, the phone lines opened up. And we see something similar to this in Deuteronomy 30. I'm going to read verses 1 through 5. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee. all the blessings and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee, and shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice in all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thine soul, that the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion on thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out unto the uttermost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. So let's break that down, right? So in my opinion, the curse ends. Now, Deuteronomy 30 occurs right after Deuteronomy 28. We see the blessings and the cursings in Deuteronomy 28. So now in Deuteronomy 30, he says that it shall come to pass. This isn't a question. It's going to happen. When all these things are come upon thee, what? The slavery, all the stuff mentioned in Deuteronomy 28, the going into Egypt again by ships, all of that stuff. It says, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among the nations, or more specifically, the Goyim, the Gentiles, the Europeans. If you haven't seen my study on addressing the evidence part 3, I talk about Japheth's link to the Gentiles, and that the Gentiles, in my opinion, are the Europeans. So now we have to call all this stuff to mind, right? What's happening right now? The Israelites are calling this stuff to mind, saying, wait, all this stuff looks like us. It doesn't fit these people's history. It doesn't fit these people who are claiming to be us. This fits us. So when they should call it to mind among the Gentiles or the nations or the Europeans, whether the Lord has driven thee, who else was driven there? The people over in Israel right now can't say they were driven among the nations. They weren't scattered among the nations during slavery or with slavery. And shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity. So now, after the curse is lifted, they call this stuff to mind, they turn back to God, and then he turns the captivity. Understand this. He turns the captivity. Israel has to still be living in the land of their captivity when he turns everything around. Where are those people in Israel right now? Where were they held captive at? Where were they captive at? It's not in their history. We're the only people still living in the land of our captivity. Our ancestors were brought here 400 years ago, and we are still here in the land of our captivity. And then what does he say? He says, I will turn their captivity and have compassion on them and will return. He'll do what? He'll return. That's the second coming that the so-called Christians keep talking about. He will return and gather thee from all the nations. I, in my opinion, believe that's the rapture event. And here's why I believe it's the rapture event. And I'm going to break it down. I've never talked about my renewed or revised view on the rapture, but currently, as it states, I believe that this is the rapture event. I will return and gather thee from all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. The rapture event is for Israel. If any of thine be driven out unto the utmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And I pointed out before during the addressing the evidence series, there's a reason he mentioned fetching us from the utmost parts of space, because it was not possible for any of us to be in the outmost part of space, the outmost part of heaven. At this time, there had to be a time period this is associated with, in my opinion. So right now, if we're capable of putting people in space, it would apply to this time. If any of you or any of yours be driven unto the utmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord gather thee, and from thence will I fetch thee. That sounds like the rapture event. For those of you who are familiar with the Left Behind series, when we see all these Christians, white, black, everybody being snatched up into the air, tell me this doesn't sound like that event. Him snatching people from wherever they are, but he's talking specifically about Israel. So anyway, he says, and the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possess, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. Now, this is one aspect of it. Again, I'm trying to put all this together. And as I've said before, as new information comes in, I will update my view. So now, after this phone call comes out, what does he say? And I will come near to you in judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers and against the adulterers and against the false swearers and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow and the fatherless, and that turn aside that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith the Lord of hosts, for I am the Lord, I change not, therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. Even from those days, even from the days of your fathers, ye are gone away from my ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith the Lord of hosts. But ye said, wherein shall we return? Now, that last question off, but ye said, wherein shall we return? Let me stop right there at the end of the sentence. Let me reread that real quick. Even from the days of your fathers, ye have gone astray from mine ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith the Lord of hosts. Period. Again, he says, return unto me, and I will return unto you. He's giving you the blueprint on how to call him back, Israelites. He said, when you're in other countries and you consider this and turn back to him, he will turn back your captivity and will return. Here he says, turn back to me, and I will return unto you. He's waiting for Israel to call him back. So now, as he's waiting for Israel to call him back, again, this is my opinion of the events and why things didn't go down as the Urban Apologetics community would like you to believe that all of us believe will go down, or some of us believe will go down. The reason for that is that there's this awakening period where we all get on the same page and say, you know what, let's just call him back and change our situation. That is happening right now, because now, as you can see, more black people are starting to identify as Israelites, and they're starting to understand because we have the evidence that you guys can't address. And the longer you stay silent, the bigger this is going to grow. And the more you talk and oppress us, the bigger this is going to grow, because you can't stop the move of the Most High. All you can do is sit back and let it happen. So let's talk about the pull up. So he gets the call back, and then there's a verse where he seems to show up. Now, again, this is just my opinion, but he seems to show up on the spot. Jeremiah chapter 30, verses 5 through 11. For thus saith the Lord, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. We who? We who? Y'all can answer that for yourself. But what did they hear the voice of? Trembling and fear and not of peace. What's happening right now? Let me just lay this in perspective. Let's talk about the Mount of Olives. First, there's slavery. They shall lead you captive into all nations. Go to Matthew 24. Anybody wants to read, go to Matthew 24. I'm paraphrasing. They will lead you captive into all nations. Then shall ye be hated. The end is not yet. You should be hated of all nations for my name's sake. They shall deliver you up to the synagogues. I'm paraphrasing here. I'm just giving you the bullet points. Slavery first. Then you'll be hated of all nations for his name's sake. Why are we hated right now? Because we believe that Christ is black and that we're Israelites. We're being hated because of him. Then they shall deliver you up to the synagogues. What's happening right now? A narrative is being painted. A narrative is being painted that all black people that believe we're Israelites are black Hebrew Israelite camp members, and that we're all violent, and that we're all racist, and that we all hate Jews. This is the narrative being painted right now. UA is helping them paint that narrative. Understand what's going on. The point we are at right now, and I'm going to talk about in a minute, a point in Revelation. But anyway, we're going to talk Jeremiah 30, verse 5 through 11. For thus saith the Lord, we have heard the voice of trembling and of fear and not of peace. Some people are afraid right now. They don't know what's happening because they believe they're Israel, and yet they're being associated with hate crimes and terrorism, and they go to a Christian church and they have no clue. All they know is they believe Christ is black and they believe they're Israel, and their pastor hasn't taught them prophetically what's about to happen, so they're not prepared. So they're scared, trembling, and fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with child. It's funny. I don't think this is, it could be. I think sometimes I find interesting, funny things in the Bible that, again, point to a time period. So first we have the reference to, we have the reference in Malachi to the utmost parts of heaven. I'm sorry, not Malachi. Deuteronomy, being driven out to the utmost parts of heaven, which I said could loosely be a reference to space technology. And then we have this right here, whether a man doth travail with child. Now, I know it probably doesn't mean this, but it's interesting. We live in a time period where we just had a news headline that the world's first man gave birth to a baby. Just an interesting factoid. It doesn't mean it has anything to do with this prophecy. I just wanted to throw that in there. All right. It says, wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces turned into paleness. This is what's going on. People are scared, and I imagine that many people are going to be scared when he returns based on his skin color. Because that question keeps coming up. If Christ is black, am I saved? Wait, what happens if I've treated black people horribly and they really are Israel? Wait a minute. What if these really are his people? All that stuff in the Bible that it said applies to me. What's going to happen to my family? All these questions happen when he turns back. Now, what happens? Alas, for the day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. The time of Jacob's trouble. Look at the most oppressed people on the planet right now. Who's being gunned down in the streets by the same people who are supposed to serve and protect, whether we have guns or not. You can have a phone. You can be a teenage kid coming out of a party, didn't commit a crime. You get shot in the back of the head through the car window. You could be in your grandmother's backyard on the phone and the cop comes shoot you. You could be getting out the car and the cop tells you to pull out your wallet. You reach for your wallet and he shoots you. You can be a black woman inside your own house with your nephew playing a game and a cop will shoot you through the window at 2:00 in the morning. You could be a black man sitting in your own apartment eating ice cream and a white cop will come kick in your door and shoot you. And all of these people barely get convicted. Didn't Michael Vick get the same amount of time for them doing the whatever he was doing, the dog fights, as Amber Geiger got for murdering a black man in his own house? And people are still mad at Michael Vick. And yet Amber Geiger is already getting an appeal. And I guarantee you they've been sending money to her GoFundMe or Kickstarter or whatever else fundraiser she's doing. But they don't see this because they're not us. They don't see the mass incarceration. They don't see that a black person is 8 times more likely to go to prison for the same crime a white person commits because the slave system never ended. We have to be removed from this place for all of this stuff to cease. And it says, for it shall come to pass in that day, for it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and I will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. But they shall serve the Lord their God, and David their king, whom I shall raise up. Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, saith the Lord, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar. Israel has to be far from their own land to be saved from. Who right now is far from their own land to be saved from when the Lord comes back? Them people in Israel right now, supposedly, if y'all believe they're Jews, when Christ comes back, what's he going to do? They're already in their land. When the Most High brings down judgment, what's he going to do? They're already in their land. He's not saving them from afar. There's only one people that went into slavery and is still scattered among their oppressors and is far from their home, and that's the Negro in America and the islands and up in Asia and all these other places we were scattered to. It says, therefore fear not, I will save thee from afar and thy seed from the land of their captivity. Again, look through history, who's in the land of their captivity and who's not. And Jacob shall return and shall be in rest and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. For I am with thee, saith the Lord, to save thee. Though I make a full end of all nations, whither I have scattered thee, yet I will not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. So Israel's punishment was temporary, 400 years. And then he's going to destroy these nations. He's going to end them. Read the book of Revelation. What is he doing? He's bringing an end. Well, let's keep going. We can look at Jeremiah 12. He talks about this order of events. After the phone call, after the curse is ended, we can get that call because he wasn't listening before. Now he's listening. He's waiting for however many of us to get to the point that we're all calling, or however many of us have to call on him. I don't know an exact number. I don't know if it's a majority. I don't know if it's a percentage. I don't know what it is, but I know there has to be a turning back, and we have to call him back for it to work. They have sown wheat, but shall reap thorns. They have put themselves to pain, but shall not profit, and they shall be ashamed of your revenues because of their fierce anger of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord against all mine evil neighbors that touch the inheritance which I have caused my people Israel to inherit. This is talking about the land of Israel. Now, again, we're talking about the return here after the phone call. Notice something interesting. Behold, I will pluck them out of their land and pluck out the house of Judah from among them. Now, that verse might be a little difficult to understand because the way it's worded, he's going to pluck the fakes out of the land of Israel and pluck real Israel out from among the fakes. So he's going to take the Europeans out of the land of Israel. He's going to take Israel from out of the land of the Europeans. And it shall come to pass that after that I have plucked them out, I will return and have compassion on them, and will bring them again, every man to his heritage and every man to his land. And it shall come to pass, if they diligently learn the ways of my people, to swear by my name, the Lord liveth, as they taught my people to swear by Baal or Baal, then shall they be built in the midst of my people. Now, problem for the camps that teach Israelite only salvation. He says, if you learn the ways of his people, which means you are not his people. Not talking to the camps in that part, but he's talking to the non-believers, the non-Israelites. If you learn the ways of his people, you will be built in the midst of his people. So there's not this Israelite only salvation that y'all claim many of us teach. But if they will not obey, I will utterly pluck them up and destroy that nation, saith the Lord. So the fakes have to be removed from the land, and then Israel has to be removed from the land of the fakes. This is after the call. So we go to Revelation. Now, Revelation 2. The reason that fakes have to be pulled out of the land. Oh, let me go back. This is in Jeremiah. He says that the fakes, he's going to pull the fakes. He says, let me read this again. Thus saith the Lord against all my evil neighbors that touch the inheritance which I have caused my people Israel to inherit. Israel inherits the land. Behold, I will pluck them out of their land and pluck out the house of Judah from among them. So there's going to be fakes in the land. Revelation 2:9, 2:8 through 11. And unto the angel of the church of Smyrna write, these things saith the first and the last, which was dead and is alive. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty. Who's going through tribulation and poverty right now? Us. We're being gunned down by the people sworn to serve and protect. They're getting away with it, and we're being mass enslaved. He knows our tribulation and our poverty, but thou art rich, in parentheses. So now, if we're rich, he says, I know thy poverty, but thou art rich. He's talking about spiritually rich. We won't even get into the spirituality in the black community and how very few of us are atheists, but we are rich. He says, and then anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked on that. I know thy poverty, right? Think about stereotypes for a minute. What is the stereotype of the average Jewish person? The white Jew is that they are greedy and have money. That's a stereotype. I'm not saying it's true, but the stereotype around them is that they are rich. But he says, I know thy poverty. So they don't fit. They are not going through tribulation right now. He says, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. So somebody's lying about being a Jew. Somebody's lying about it being a Jew. And how many black synagogues have you seen? Somebody type in the chat how many black synagogues exist. I'm not saying there are none, but just tell me how many black synagogues exist. So go down to verse Revelation 2:10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life. He that hath an ear to hear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. So that's the first time it mentions fake Jews. Second time is Revelation 3:7 through 11. And to the angel of the church of Philadelphia write, these things said he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth and no man shutteth, and shutteth and no man openeth. I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. For thou hast little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. So the fake Jews don't know yet who the real Jews are. And he's going to make it very, very evident. He's going to make the fake Jews come worship before the real ones. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world, to try them that dwell upon the earth. We're going to talk about Israel being removed in a second. We talked about that briefly, but I'm going to talk about it again. Behold, I come quickly, hold fast to that which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. So now, let me put together a loose order of events. So the first loose order of events. As I live, saith the Lord God, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out, I will will I rule over you, and I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered, with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out. Didn't he say he's going to make an end of the nations? Didn't he tell Abraham he was going to judge the nation where he pulls them out from? And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there I will plead with you face to face. Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so I will plead with you, saith the Lord God, and I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant, and I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. So Teo Ministries does a great job at covering this right here, talking about us being returned to the wilderness first, and then the rebels being purged from among us. So there's an order of events. The curse ends. He wasn't listening before. Now he's listening for however many people to call him back. He comes back. The nations are dismayed. Israel is raptured or taken away from out of the nations. And then they are brought into the wilderness. This is why I say this is a loose order of events, because I'm always willing to change my perspective if other evidence comes in. So then in Revelation, we have this supported. So we have this Ezekiel verse, but in Revelation, so in Ezekiel, it says he's going to take them to the wilderness and plead. He's going to plead with them face to face like he did with their fathers. So now in Revelation, we have the same thing happen, but in metaphor style, in a vision. Revelation 12, 1-6. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. If you're familiar with the book of Genesis and Joseph's dream, you know that this represents Israel, because it represented his brothers and his father and everybody bound down to him. It's the same imagery used in the book of Genesis. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. So we know this is Satan. And so you have the dragon versus Israel, Satan versus Israel. And his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered to devour her child as soon as it was born. So Israel, where did Christ come from? He came from Israel. Christ was an Israelite. And what happened as soon as he was born? Herod sent everybody to kill every male child under 2 years old. But the Most High had them flee to Egypt in Africa to hide. It says, and she brought forth a man child who was to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. You got to be familiar with Psalms chapter 2 for this. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. You got to be familiar with the resurrection of Christ for this. The ascension. You have to be familiar with this book. You have to read this book to know what's going on in Revelation. And the woman fled where? Into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her for 1,260 days. So she flees from this persecution by Satan. There's going to be a time when the Israelites are taken or flee into the wilderness. We see this wilderness thing come up over and over and over again. So for those of you who are listening to the Urban Apologist lie on us, just understand they are not giving you the entire truth of what it is we believe, and they're doing that for a reason. They want to keep you away from the evidence. They want to keep you away from the facts. So with that said, I'm going to stop right here, because there's other studies that I need to do that are based around a lot of this stuff, and I think you'll benefit more from standalone studies than me just tossing those into this as a response to the Urban Apologetics community. So anyway, if you have not grabbed a copy of Undeniable, you can grab one at Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble. You can grab the Black Hebrew Awakening at Amazon or Barnes & Noble. If you want to support, patreon.com/Dante Fortson, hashtag BHITB on the Cash app. And if you have not subscribed yet, click the subscribe button, click the thumbs up, and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I put out new content. So with that said, until next time, I'm out.